Hello again, this is Brad Wenz from the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District with your conservation report. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about different ways to establish cover crops in a corn-soybean rotation, and this could also apply to any annual crop rotation. And also I want to talk a little bit about the advantages of a rotation diversity, especially when it comes to establishing cover crops and getting those into your rotation on the farm. One of the major obstacles to establishing cover crops in a corn-soybean rotation is getting them planted early enough for them to do any good. And we're really, when we look at corn and soybeans or any annual crop, we're really looking at three options. The first option would be to wait until after harvest and tillage and possibly manure application, and then plant the cover crop late in the fall. In this scenario, we're probably looking at planting a winter annual, and in most cases that's going to be cereal rye, but it could be other things, winter wheat or cereal, or winter barley, winter triticale, things like that. You're really leaving out the cocktail mixes at this stage, because those really do need to be planted at least by September 1st. The second option, seeding cover crops in a corn-soybean rotation, would be to interseed the cover crop after the production crop has been established, and after we're beyond the period where there could be carryover from herbicides. We're probably looking at V7, V8 in corn. And with that, you're just basically overseeding the cover crop in the row. And you need specialized equipment to do that, something that won't take out the corn or the soybeans. Broadcast seeders and other equipment is becoming available to do that. Again, you're really kind of limited on species choices there too. A lot of the grasses don't really do well in between the row there. When the row closes up and there's a lot of shade underground, we're probably looking more at the shade-tolerant species, the brassicas like the radishes, turnips, and canola, and things like that, and clovers. The third option to establish cover crops in a corn-soybean rotation would be aerial application in August. Flying it on with an airplane is one option. You can get that on early. Usually right around mid-August, late August, even early September, mid-September works with the airplane. It's a little expensive, and you're competing with insect spraying. The pilot has to retool the airplane to go from spraying aphids to applying cover crops. Plus, it's a little bit expensive depending on where you're at. So really, your options are quite limited when it comes to establishing a cover crop in a corn-soybean rotation. There is a third option, however, and this is gaining attention with farmers, and I think this one is one that is a little bit more difficult to apply in some situations because it means changing your rotation a little bit. What you need to do is add a short season crop to the rotation. This could be a small grain, either a spring small grain or a winter small grain, or maybe a vegetable crop such as peas. What this does, it not only makes a window of opportunity for planting the cover crops, especially the mixes that people like to have with the clovers to get some nitrogen fixation and other benefits of the cocktail mix. You can plant them earlier when you take that short season crop off, but it also can increase and improve the bottom line, with a little bit more diversity in the crop rotation. And I want to quote an article that came out in the Crops and Soils magazine July and August of this year. It was an article written by Tanner Emke. He's a contributing writer for the Crops and Soils magazine. And the name of the article is called Diversity Pays. Adding a third crop into a corn-soybean rotation increases productivity. Tanner starts the article by saying that he's talking about 35 years of data cannot be wrong. At the University of Guelph, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, they were doing some long-term crop rotation plots in Ontario, Canada, which have been under observation since 1980. Scientists have compared a diversity of crop rotation ranging from continuous corn to continuous alfalfa, right, basically the whole range. And they also have a no-till and conventional tillage comparison within those rotations. And what they found was very interesting. Tanner says that the story that is really emerging from this trial, again, it's a 35-year trial on the importance of looking at crop rotations. What's really emerging from the trial is that corn-soybean rotation, which represents the most common rotation across Ontario and northern Corn Belt, is associated with the lowest yield and the lowest system resilience. It's most vulnerable to moisture extremes, particularly drought conditions, has the lowest soil organic matter and the lowest input use efficiency. It has higher nitrogen requirements and than a more complex rotation. And it's got reduced probability of no-till success. Tanner says in this article from the Crops and Soils magazine that the long list of concerns can be alleviated simply by adding a third crop. And then they're using winter wheat up there in Canada, and I think we could include another short season crop like a spring small grain here too, here in Minnesota. And moving from a 2-crop cycle to a 3-crop cycle improves virtually everything out there. He goes on to say when you add wheat into the system, your corn yield next year goes up. And if you have 2 years of corn in the system, your second-year corn yield goes up, he says. But, and this is really interesting in this study, he says, more interestingly, the biggest impact is on the soybeans 3 years later. You see about a 14% yield increase in soybeans by including wheat into the rotation. And I think he's kind of, what he points out in this article is one of the reasons why you see a jump in yield with the diversity in rotation is because of biomass. You just don't get the biomass return into the soil organic matter, and so on from the soybeans. He says, quote here, that soil in a corn-soybean rotation just doesn't hold water the same as corn, soy, wheat system. He says, we think the root development is more constrained, and it just doesn't provide much moisture in those drought years. But he says that meanwhile, adding winter wheat also gives farmers the opportunity to add cover crops to the mix, thereby further increasing organic matter and soil quality. He says that cover crops planted into wheat stubble following harvest in late July or early August, and allowing 2.5 to 3 months of potential growing season before the onset of winter. So that's how we get these mixes into the system here, by having a short season crop to be able to get these in the ground before September 1st. But, and this is the hook that I think a lot of farmers cite as a potential problem, is they just don't see the return on the wheat in a rotation or a small grain. But Tanner, in this article from Crops and Soils magazine, kind of addresses that too. He says, however, they're often hung up on the perceived slimmer monetary returns of wheat compared with corn and soybeans. And he says, what you need to do is make the argument that they're looking at wheat independently of all the other benefits. Once you start penciling in the benefits of wheat, and again, we're looking at any short season crop such as a spring small grain. When you pencil in the other benefits, including increased corn yields, increased soybean yields, reduced nutrient requirements, corn, soybean, wheat rotation often is as profitable, if not more profitable, than just corn, soybean. For more information about planting assistance, and there's actually some money out there available through the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service for looking at crop diversity changes, and also cover crops, give us a call at our office here at the Saltwater Conservation District at 251-7800, extension 3, or you can visit our website at Stearns County, SWCD.net. Thank you very much. This has been Brad Wenz from the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. Have a good day.